Very good. And we're here today with Larry Wendt. And I don't have your vitals. There we go. In your regular Army.
Mm-hmm.
What was your rank? Highest rank?
Spec 4. Specialist 4.
Specialist 4. Where did you serve?
Fort Hood, Texas.
And then it was in the Army Hospital.
Yeah, Darnell Army Hospital.
Darnell Army Hospital. And what was your job or assignment?
Well, I had some different ones. When I first got there, they had more medics than they did clerks, so they put me to clerking. I worked at the admissions desk for approximately the first 3 months I was there. And then they had what they call the big IG inspection. That's when they got to get everybody working what they're classified or what their MOS is. So
okay.
I went to be a medic. I spent 3 months on maternity ward.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. And then I finally managed to get off there, and I spent the rest of my time working on the orthopedic ward.
Oh, okay.
Well, I said the rest of the time I was on the orthopedic ward till, like I said, I got orders to go to Germany. I went to Fort Dix. They decided I didn't have enough time left to go to Germany, so they sent me back to Fort Hood. And then when I got back to Fort Hood, they made me a clerk again. I worked at the admission desk for the last 2.5 months I was in.
So like the first 3 months you were there and the last 2.5, 3 months you were there. That's cool. Comes full circle that way. And you knew it, you didn't have to be trained. Tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences.
Boy. Well, the one was when they told me I was going to have to work on a maternity ward. I thought, oh, good Lord. And then when I got to maternity ward, which I became good friends with them, but there was 2 kind of ornery nurses, and they would do everything in the world they could to embarrass me.
Mm-hmm.
One day they sent me in to check the vitals of this lady and the baby's vitals. Well, the lady had already had her baby, and she come quite irritated when I didn't. When she thought that I didn't think she'd had her baby ready, but
No.
yeah. And I don't know then. Well, working at the hospital as a clerk and as a medic, I kind of got to learn, come to know quite a bit of the staff. And the last little hitch I did there working as a clerk at the admissions desk, there was a lady there that she was Silver Service. But she was a real nice lady, everything is. But at that time, we were getting 2 plane loads of guys back from Vietnam. They would come in, and they all had to go through the hospital. Some of them were checked in. Some of them, and they all had leave time coming, but they all had to spend at least 3 days in the hospital, depending on their problem, how bad it was. Mm-hmm. And then they would go on leave, or the bad ones had to stay, and be medicated and taken care of. Jessie was her name. She was scared to death of these guys.
How come?
Well, she was afraid that they'd have knives, guns. She knew where they come from, and heard all the rumors about how, that they was really coming there just to be de-animalized, more or less. So she asked me if I'd take care of them, and that was about all I had to do. Them planes would come in one day, and then 2 or 3 days later, they would come in. As long as I took care of those guys and all their baggage, she didn't care if I did anything else. So, that was just...
Yeah. How were the guys?
Most of them were great. I never did have one. I never did have one give me a problem. But then, at one time, there was just a private flight, not a real, but there was a flight came in that 2 MPs had a guy that had kind of went sideways over there, and he'd killed 2 or 3. They'd shot him. He was, well, when I finally found him up on the, 6th floor, I think, he was laying in a bed and had tubes and everything come in, couldn't move. He was just barely alive. But that really scared her, We got this murderer up there. Well, I went up and looked to see my was. I come back and said, Jess, you don't have to worry about him.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if he recovered or what. But the thing was, they sent 2 MPs with him all the way from Vietnam. Yeah. But when they got to the hospital, they got him inside the hospital, and they split.
No.
No, really, that happened.
Mm.
I'd say that's about the most memorable thing right there.
Oof, that's a little unnerving.
Well,
Ugh. Um, okay, this is one of the aforementioned high school student
Right.
questions. What was the food like? It's probably
they was fantastic there.
yeah.
See, we ate in the same cafeteria that all the doctors
Mm.
and everybody else did, and we're actually the same kitchen that prepared meals for the. I mean, we ate like kings.
Well, that's good. It's just funny how
No, it wasn't really
people
good.
say the food's really good.
When I got out, I weighed 240 pounds.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm trying to skip through some of the stuff that doesn't make sense. Did you have or do something special for good luck? Especially when you're dealing with the guy up there with it.
Not really. I mean, I didn't.
Mm.
I just took it day at a time. Just whatever happened, happened.
You what?
I just took it day at a time. Whatever happened, happened.
There you go. Do they have entertainers come to the unit?
Not that I
In
can
this
recall.
case, what did you do when you were on leave? That is, you can say.
I always came home.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, good for you. This says, where did you travel when you were in the service? But you were in Texas. No, you weren't always in Texas. Or you were in Wisconsin.
Well, yeah. I took basic at Fort Leonard.
Fort
Then I went
Leonard,
to Fort
that's
San Antonio for medical training, and then from there to
Okay.
Fort Hood. And I was there other than when they sent me to Fort Dix. I ended up spending a week in a holding company out there just until they sent me back to Fort Hood. So I mean,
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual events? What's the weirdest thing you saw in the hospital? Besides the guy on the sixth floor.
There's so many weird things went on there. We had an incident where it was actually a guy that stayed in us. See that we had the nice brick barracks 7-man rooms, and the kid actually stayed in the room I stayed in. But I'm not sure what trouble he got into. But he come flying in there in his car and landed in the parking lot. Come running in the building and hid in the closet. And the MPs come in looking for him. And nobody would say anything, but they'd seen him or anything. And pretty soon, everybody in that barracks was hanging out the windows and everything else, hollering, telling the MPs to go away. And they finally did. Well, the deal was, them MPs knew that if anything happened to them around there, they had to go through the emergency room or where all these medics work. And
So what'd the guy do?
I think it was just a traffic violation, but I think maybe he might have been a little intoxicated and didn't want to get caught.
Yikes. Well, you didn't get caught.
No,
No.
nope, he didn't get caught.
What do you think of your officers and fellow soldiers?
Well, at the time I was in, I assume that's what that's based on. Most of them were good people, fair people, and pretty easy to work with. I can remember, there was a clerk that worked in the personnel department that me and him had a run-in or two. I just didn't care much for him. And there was one staff sergeant that he was actually just doing his job, but he was, no matter how good you did your work and stuff, if he'd catch you just with a little bit too long hair or something like that, he'd always just jump in your butt, I mean, I can't say I hated him or anything like that, but I mean, he's one that made you kind of uneasy to be around.
Yeah. Do you recall the day your service ended?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know so much the exact last day I worked, but see down there at that time you got 3 days to process out, and generally it took most of that 3 days, and then my name being Wendt, W, everything in the Army went by alphabetical order. But during my work in the hospital, there was a man that he was for the veterans. I mean, I don't know exactly what he called it, but I mean, he was from the VA basically. He'd come to the hospital and visit all the guys and stuff. And me and him became friends. And the first day I started processing out, he just happened to be going by and he seen me standing in line. And he spoke, but he walked on by, and pretty soon he come back with a sergeant from up there in front. And they grabbed me and said, come on, you're going to the front of the line. In a day and a half, I was out.
Oh, that's nice.
I was.
Wow. That is nice. That was a good thing to do. When you got out, did you go to work or back to school or to school?
I went back to work.
Where'd you work at?
I worked at the F&M Equity in the fertilizer plant. And,
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And I had the guy that was managing the place at that time, I went in to tell him I was home, wanted my job back. And he said, well, we really don't need any help right now. I said, but wait a minute. I said, I was under the understanding I should get my job back. Well, he said, we'll put you on as part-time, which all amounted to was quarters less. I mean, full-time got a quarter more than what part-time did. It wasn't within a week I had my full-time status. After I got there and the foreman found out what he was pulling stuff, he went to me and said, hey, he's full-time.
Mm-hmm.
Could you say the name of it again, please? Fertilizer place.
Effingham Equity.
Effingham. Okay.
Did you make any close friendships while in the service?
Yes, I remember a few.
Did you continue any of those relationships?
No, I haven't. I don't regret it.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, you get on Facebook. You don't
I
have
don't.
anybody on that Facebook.
If my granddaughter ain't there, I can't turn the computer on.
You joined a veterans organization.
Yes, well, I don't know, I think it was when a year and a half after I got out, one uncle approached me and I joined the Legion. But I really didn't participate. I didn't go to meetings or anything. But then, I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but about 3 or 4 years after that, I got to working with some guys on construction that from a different Legion. It's just, well, I'm kind of in the middle. I mean, 6 miles north is Effingham, 7 miles south is Edgewood. But more of the kids I went to school with and worked with belonged to Edgewood, so I transferred my Legion membership to Edgewood. And, of course, I still actually didn't participate much. I'd go to a meeting every once in a while. But then I retired from the construction trade in 2007, and I became more active. I'm a service officer at the Edgewood Legion. And through the years, I think I've belonged to the DAV for either 14 or 15 years now. Of course, I was the same way there. I mean, I'd just hit a meeting every once in a while, but since I've retired, I've got more active there. I am the commander of it now.
Really? Well, good for you. That's cool. Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or the military in general? Because that was a pretty tough. That was a pretty tough time when you were in.
Yeah, yes, in several ways. I mean, I didn't understand a lot of times why what was going on, and see, that's when I went in. That's when Vietnam was really hot over there because they held us over. We couldn't get no orders coming out of basic training. The rumor was we was all going straight to Nam. And after waiting around a week, we finally get orders. And then I went to Fort San Antonio, and it was basically the same thing when we got done down there. They held us over for about a week because we didn't have orders. You're going to Nam. Well, I didn't go. I ended up at Fort Hood, and that's where I stayed. But for as hot and heavy as it was when I went in, then see, I was only in 18 months and 24 days because they came up with the early outs because that's when they was shutting it down over there. I mean, that went on for a couple of years after that, but they just had too many of us, didn't know what to do with us, so they come up with the early out.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
It was 74 when they finally pulled out.
Yeah. And see, I got out it was either the end of January or 1st of February 72. And like I say, 18 months, 24 days is all I was there.
Did you enlist? I'm
No,
just
I was
asking.
drafted. Yeah.
I got a friend that, well, never mind, he did. And he's kind of crazy. Whoops. How's your service and experiences affect your life? How has your service and experiences affected your life?
Well, it taught me a lot about getting along with people. I mean, before I went in the service, where I live, there wasn't hardly any other races or anything. And, you know, then they throw you in where, you know, it's a mixture. I learned how to kind of adjust to that kind of life. And was caring for some of the guys.
It's okay.
I learned that a lot of them did a lot more than I did. I'm sorry.
Oh, you said that you learned that a lot of guys did more than, and
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, a lot of them got hurt bad. A lot of them gave up their lives. I never even came in harm's way.
You took care of people. You know, you took care of people. Okay, here's one. This is mine. Okay, this is one I'm throwing out there, and it's a little rough. But it's more like today.
Yeah.
And the question is, well, I got applies to them too. Actually, never mind. How did I phrase that before? Do you remember? That one. Do you think the government is doing enough to help people to reacclimate when they get out of the service?
Absolutely not. And I know that they're trying to improve things now, I think, but with the government we've got that won't give me any money, it's hard to improve things without any money. And what they're trying to do for Iraqi and Afghanistan veterans coming home now, they should have did for Vietnam veterans. I mean, back when I got out was when the guys had been over was coming back home getting spit at and stuff like that. And nobody really seemed to care. I mean, the whole country got, you know.
It's changed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's changed.
Yeah, it's changed.
It's
yeah.
changed.
But still.
I mean, towards the Vietnam vets.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, you know.
But, and I may be misquoting this, but I was just at a DEC meeting, and I think there's something like 400,000 coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan that need, some of them slight care, some of them intense care. But the same people that started those wars didn't appropriate any money to take care of these veterans, which is sad, real sad.
The last gentleman I talked to was my age, and he was in the first Iraqi Gulf War, Kuwait stuff. And I asked him the same question, and he said the same thing. Exact same. Everybody thinks, it's funny how everybody thinks the same thing, but nothing gets done.
No. And
well, like you said, I guess it's better. How is it better now? Well, besides
they are
the attitude.
They are trying. I mean, they've got programs, but the programs can't do what they need to do because they don't have enough money. It's the way I understand it.
He said the same thing too. There's no money. Wow. Is there anything you want to add?
Not really, I don't think. Well, maybe, and I should have said something about this when you asked about memorable things, but I mean, see, when I was there, that's when they had the incident with Lieutenant Calley.
Right.
And what I was telling you about the medics rising up and saving this boy there, which maybe they shouldn't have did, but a bunch of these guys were in that barracks, had actually served underneath that man over there, and knew that he wasn't what he was being accused of. That's where that's kind of where that came from. I mean, they'd been stepped on before, and they wasn't going to let that happen. What it boiled down to.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you for doing this. I appreciate it so much. You've had an amazing experience. You're an amazing man.
No, yes.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.